Picking up at the bottom of 50. The three whores lived in the apartment above the Breedlove storefront. China, Poland, and Miss Marie. Piccola loved them, visited them, and ran their errands. They, in turn, did not despise her. On an October morning, the morning of the stove-lit triumph, Piccola climbed the stairs to their apartment. Even before the door was opened to her tapping, she could hear Poland singing, her voice sweet and hard like new strawberries. I got the blues in my meal barrel, blues up on the shelf. I got blues in my meal barrel, blues up on the shelf, blues in my bedroom, 'cause I'm sleeping by myself. Hi, Dumpling, where are your socks? Marie seldom called Piccola the same thing twice, but invariably her epithets were fond ones chosen from menus and dishes that were forever uppermost in her mind. Hello, Miss Marie. Hello, Miss China. Hello, Miss Poland. You heard me. Where are your socks? You as bare-legged as a yard dog. I couldn't find any. Couldn't find any? Must be something in your house that loves socks. China chuckled. Whenever something was missing, Mary attributed its disappearance to something in the house that loved it. There is something in the house that loves brassieres, she would say with alarm. Poland and China were getting ready for the evening. Poland forever ironing, forever singing. China sitting on the pale green kitchen chair, forever and forever curling her hair. Marie never got ready. The women were friendly but slow to begin talk. Piccola always took the initiative with Marie, who, once inspired, was difficult to stop. How come you got so many boyfriends, Miss Marie? Boyfriends? Boyfriends? Chitlin, I ain't seen a boy since 1927. You didn't see none then. China stuck the hot curlers into a tin of New Nile hairdressing. The oil hissed at the touch of the hot metal. Quay, come here. Sorry. How come, Miss Marie? Piccola insisted. How come what? How come I ain't seen a boy since 1927? Because they ain't been boys since then. That's when they stopped. Folks started getting born old. You mean that's when you got old, China said. I ain't never got old, just fat. Same thing. You think 'cause you skinny, folks think you young? You'd make a haint by a girdle. And you look like the north side of a southbound mule. All I know is them bandy little legs of yours is every bit as old as mine. Don't worry about my bandy legs. That's the first thing they push aside. All three of the women laughed. Marie threw back her head. From deep inside, her laughter came like the sound of many rivers, freely, deeply, muddily, heading it for the room of an open sea. China giggled spastically. Each gasp seemed to be yanked out of her by an unseen hand jerking an unseen string. Poland, who seldom spoke unless she was drunk, laughed without sound. When she was sober, she hummed mostly or chanted blues songs, of which she knew many. Piccola fingered the fringe of a scarf that lay on the back of a sofa. I never seen nobody with as many boyfriends as you got, Miss Marie. How come they all love you? Marie opened a bottle of root beer. What else they gonna do? They know I'm rich and good looking. They wants to put their toes in my curly hair and get at my money. You rich, Miss Marie? Pudding. I got money's mommy. Where you get it from? You don't do no work. Yeah, said China. Where you get it from? Hoover give it to me. I did him a favor once for the FBI. What'd you do? I did him a favor. They wanted to catch this crook, you see, name of Johnny. He was as low down as they come. We know that, China arranged a curl. The FBI wanted him bad. He killed more people than TB. And if you crossed him, whoa, Jesus, he'd run you as long as there was ground. Well, I was little and cute then. No more than 90 pounds soaking wet. You ain't never been soaking wet, China said. Well, you ain't never been dry. Shut up. Let me tell you, sweetenin'. To tell it true, I was the only one could handle him. He'd go out and rob a bank or kill some people, and I'd say to him soft like, Johnny, you shouldn't do that. And he'd say he just had to bring me pretty things. Lacy drawers and all. And every Saturday, we'd get a case of beer and fry up some fish. We'd fry it in a meal and egg batter, you know, and when it was all brown and crisp, not hard though, we'd break open that cold beer. Marie's eyes went soft as the memory of just such a meal sometime, somewhere transfixed her. All her stories were subject to breaking down at descriptions of food. Piccola saw Marie's teeth settling down into the back of crisp sea bass, saw the fat fingers putting back into her mouth tiny flakes of white hot meat that had escaped from her lips. She heard the pop of the beer bottle can, smelled the acridness of the first stream of vapor, felt the cold beer berryness hit the tongue. She ended the daydream long before Marie. "But what about the money?" she asked. China hooted. "She's making like she's the lady in the red that told a Dillinger. Dillinger wouldn't have come near you less than he was going hunting in Africa and shoot you for a hippo. Well, this hippo had a ball back in Chicago. Whoa, Jesus, 99. "How come you always say whoa, Jesus and a number?" Piccola had long wanted to know. "Because my mama taught me never to cuss." "Did she teach you not to drop your drawers?" China asked. "Didn't have none," said Marie. "Never saw a pair of drawers till I was 15, when I left Jackson and I was doing day work in Cincinnati. My white lady gave me some old ones of hers. I thought they was some kind of stocking cap. I put it on my head when I dusted. When she saw me, she liked to fell out." "Quasar, what do you want?" "You must have been one dumb somebody." China lit a cigarette and cooled her irons. "How'd I know?" Marie paused. "And what's the use of putting on something you gotta keep taking off all the time? Dewey never let me keep them on long enough to get used to them." "Dewey who?" This was a somebody new to Piccola. "Dewey who? Chicken, you never heard me tell of Dewey?" Marie was shocked by her negligence. "No, ma'am." "Oh, honey, you've missed half your life." "Whoa, Jesus, 195. You talking about smooth. I met him when I was 14. We ran away and lived together like married for 3 years. You know, all those clinker tops you see running up here. 50 of 'em in a bowl wouldn't make a Dewey Prince ankle bone. Oh, Lord, how that man loved me." China arranged a fingerful of hair into a bang effect. "Then why'd he left you to sell tail?" "Girl, when I found out I could sell it, that somebody would pay cold cash for it, you could have knocked me over with a feather." Poland began to laugh, soundlessly. "Me too. My auntie whipped me good that first time when I told her I didn't get no money. I said, 'Money? For what?' 'He didn't owe me nothing,' she said. 'The hell he didn't.'" They all dissolved in laughter. The three merry gargoyles, three merry harridans, amused by a long ago time of ignorance. They did not belong to those generations of prostitutes created in novels with great and generous hearts, dedicated, because of the horror of the circumstance, to ameliorating the luckless, barren life of men, taking money incidentally and humbly for their understanding. Nor were they from that sensitive breed of young girl gone wrong at the hands of fate, forced to cultivate an outward brittleness in order to protect her springtime from further shock, but knowing full well she was cut out for better things, and could make the right man happy. Neither were they the sloppy, inadequate whores who, unable to make a living at it alone, turned to drug consumption and traffic or pimps to help complete their scheme of self-destruction, avoiding suicide only to punish the memory of some absent father or to sustain the misery of some silent mother. Except for Marie's fabled love for Dewey Prince, these women hated men, all men, without shame, apology, or discrimination. They abused their visitors with a scorn grown mechanical from use. Black men, white men, Puerto Ricans, Mexicans, Jews, Poles, whatever, all were inadequate and weak. All came under their jaundiced eyes and were the recipients of their disinterested wrath. They took delight in cheating them. On one occasion, the town well knew, they lured a Jew up the stairs, pounced on him, all three, held him up by the heels, shook everything out of his pants pockets, and threw him out of the window. Neither did they have respect for women, who, although not their colleagues, so to speak, nevertheless deceived their husbands regularly or irregularly. It made no difference. Sugar-coated whores, they called them, and did not yearn to be in their shoes. Their only respect was for what they would have described as good Christian colored women. The women whose reputation was spotless and who tended to her family, who didn't drink or smoke or run around. These women had their undying, if covert, affection. They would sleep with their husbands and take their money, but always with a vengeance. Nor were they protective and solicitous of youthful innocence. They looked back on their own youth as a period of ignorance and regretted that they had not made more of it. They were not young girls in whores' clothing or whores regretting their loss of innocence. They were whores in whores' clothing, whores who had never been young and had no word for innocence. With Piccola, they were as free as they were with each other. Marie concocted stories for her because she was a child, but the stories were breezy and rough. If Piccola had announced her intention to live the life they did, they would not have tried to dissuade her or voiced any alarm. "You and Dewey Prince have any children, Miss Marie?" Yeah, we had some." Marie fidgeted. She pulled a bobby pin from her hair and began to pick her teeth. That meant she didn't want to talk anymore. Piccola went to the window and looked down at the empty street. A tuft of grass had forced its way up through a crack in the sidewalk, only to meet a raw October wind. She thought of Dewey Prince, and how he loved Miss Marie. What did love feel like, she wondered. How do grown-ups act when they love each other? Eat fish together? Into her eyes came the picture of Charlie and Mrs. Breedlove in bed. He making sounds as though he were in pain, as though something had him by the throat and wouldn't let go. Terrible as his noises were, they were not nearly as bad as the no noise at all from her mother. It was as though she was not even there. Maybe that was love, choking sounds in silence. Turning her eyes from the window, Piccola looked at the women. China had changed her mind about the bangs and was arranging a small but sturdy pompadour. She was adept in creating any number of hairstyles, but each one left her with a pinched and harassed look. Then she applied makeup heavily. Now she gave herself surprised eyebrows and a cupid bow mouth. Later she would make oriental eyebrows and an evilly slashed mouth. Poland, in her sweet strawberry voice, began another song. I know a boy who is sky-soft brown. I know a boy who is sky-soft brown. The dirt leaps for joy when his feet touch the ground. His strut is a peacock, his eyes burning brass. His smile is sorghum syrup, dripping slow sweet to the last. I know a boy who is sky-soft brown. Marie sat, shelling peanuts and popping them into her mouth. Piccola looked and looked at the women. Were they real? Marie belched, softly, purringly, lovingly.